Welcome to the ONVIF Conformance webinar. This webinar will examine what ONVIF Conformance means as it relates to procuring ONVIF conformant products. My name is Sheilyn. I chair the ONVIF Communication Committee, and I'm the moderator for today's webinar. With me is Todd, who will be giving the presentation. Todd chairs the ONVIF Technical Services Committee, which is responsible for the development of ONVIF profiles, test specifications, test tools, and the conformance process. Here are the topics we will cover. First, an overview of the cornerstones of ONVIF and the benefits of ONVIF conformance. Then we'll look at how to know if a product is ONVIF conformant. We'll go over some details about conformance and misconceptions. We'll cover the ONVIF conformance process and look at the ONVIF profiles and supported features. We'll talk about ONVIF device and client test tools and go over the information that is available for every ONVIF conformant product. We'll provide a checklist and then give a quick overview about our logo and profile symbols and what they denote. And then there'll be a Q&A session at the end. And now I'll hand over the presentation to Todd.
All right, thank you, Sheilyn. I'm very fortunate to be able to work with Sheilyn on the ONVIF committees. She's great, and many others from member companies across the globe. So I'm happy to be here. So today we're going to be talking about the ONVIF conformance process. I'm on the Technical Services Committee, which one of our main responsibilities is the ONVIF conformance process that we're going to be talking about. So first of all, there's over 24,000 ONVIF conformant products on our conformance database. And that's just number of models. So if you think about the number of devices and clients globally, it's much, much greater than that across our many supported profiles. Just to do a summary of our ONVIF profiles, the first three are related mostly for access control systems. The last four on this list are mostly related to video security or video products. So profile A is for access control configuration, profile C for door control and event management, profile D for access control peripherals, profile G for edge storage and retrieval, profile M for metadata and events for analytic applications, S, our first release profile for basic video streaming, and profile T for advanced video streaming, sorry. So what are some of the cornerstones of ONVIF? So it's really the standardization of communication between IP-based physical security products, interoperability, regardless of brand, openness to all companies and organizations. So really what we want is all devices and clients kind of speaking the same language. So we don't have to do any translation or no specific language of a certain device or client. Really a standard across the various products in our ONVIF ecosystem. What are the benefits of ONVIF conformance? So it enables different brands of products to work together, eliminating the need to develop any specific drivers. So manufacturers won't have to figure out a specific camera device or client and create specific drivers for those. So this benefits end users because it gives greater flexibility and choice. No brand lock-in, and it creates future-proof systems if you ever want to expand or replace parts of your system. Similarly, for integrators, it gives their customers greater flexibility and choice, easier integration between different products, and again, future-proofing systems for ever the need to replace or expand systems. It benefits manufacturers. It's easier market acceptance. If integrators and users, customers know that it's going to work with a variety of different other products. It helps win projects. ONVIF can be a requirement for many specs, and it helps drive the greater industry growth. So what does ONVIF conformance really mean? So this is, I think, one of the main points I want to make in this presentation. If you want to pay attention to anything, pay attention to this one. So at the top right corner of most or all pages on the ONVIF website is this button that shows the conformant product database. And that's really the authoritative source of conformant products that are out there in the market. And so you can go there to check to see if, I think it's actually a really nice tool. I use it on a regular basis. You can figure out the application type, whether it's a device or client. You can search by the profile you're interested in, a specific manufacturer, or even filter by, a specific product name. So within this, you can find a product associated with its software or firmware version to ensure that that product tied to its software firmware version is indeed ONVIF conformant per the conformant process. So what does it mean if a product is listed in the conformant product conformant database, is shown in that button in the upper right corner of the website? It's got to meet this criteria. So first of all, you have to be an ONVIF member to have an ONVIF conformant product. So a member has to claim that product. The product together with its specific firmware or software version conforms to at least one ONVIF profile. And it's passed through the ONVIF conformance process. So what that means is it passes the device or client test tools that are provided by the ONVIF organization for one or many ONVIF profiles. And the relevant documents, some which are produced by that test tool, some are created by the member companies, have been submitted by the manufacturer to the ONVIF through the member portal. Okay, some common misconceptions about ONVIF conformance. So just because you're an ONVIF member doesn't mean you have necessarily any ONVIF conformant products, although you do have to be a member to have a conformant product. Conformance is not a mark of quality or an endorsement from ONVIF. The quality of the implementation for any given device or client is really on the manufacturer. It does not provide any certificates of conformance or other guarantees of conformance. So it does not provide any specific product A works with product B with some kind of certificate. And products may use ONVIF specifications or pieces of ONVIF profiles, but you can't claim to be ONVIF conformant without completing the ONVIF conformance process. There's some brand standards policies that are located on the website. I'll show you, there's a link here, but I'll show you some easier ways to get to it here coming up. Okay, so the ONVIF conformance process is really a kind of a member-driven self-declaration process by ONVIF members, and it has kind of these four pillars as part of it. So first and foremost, it has to a device or client has to implement all mandatory and conditional features of a given ONVIF profile to be conformant. It must then pass the test tool related to whether it's a device or a client. One thing to note here is we have a group of software developers that continually iterate on these test tools, and they are released every 6 months in June and December. So they're continuously being released, continuously being updated. So one thing to note is a device or client that passes the test tool with a newer version of the test tools, you can be more confident in the results than something, say, that had passed the test tools, say, 6 years ago. Or something like that. And we also mandate that new submissions are using the latest versions of the device and client test tools with a 3-month grace period. So again, new submissions are completed with the fairly recent versions of the device and client test tools. The relevant documents have to be submitted to ONVIF through the member portal. So I'll go through these 3 documents here in later slides, but it's the DOC or Declaration of Conformance, an interface guide, and the feature list. So the member has to submit these to the onvif.org website through the member portal. And then importantly, we offer developers plug fests, regularly, twice a year. COVID kind of put a wrinkle in that a little bit, unfortunately, but it's an opportunity for any member of a device or client product to be able to sit down with products from other members that have products from other companies with other conformant products and kind of do a wide test with their product against others. So it's a really good opportunity to verify that your ONVIF, your product's ONVIF implementation is correct. Okay, talk a little bit about supported features within a profile. There are, I've used the terms mandatory and conditional a couple times, so I want to explain that. So features in profile are either mandatory or conditional. All mandatory features within a profile must be supported. Conditional features need to be supported if the device or client supports that functionality. So for example, a PTZ camera, would have to support the various pan-tilt zoom calls if they are supported by the camera and conditional within that profile. But obviously, a fixed camera would not need to support those calls because the device is not capable of doing those things. So what do the ONVIF device and client test tools do, or what are they designed to do? So what they really do is they discover all the APIs specified by ONVIF profiles and some other API calls beyond those. And they check for the correct API implementation, determine if the product supports the necessary APIs to meet various profile requirements. What they're not designed to do is assess the quality of feature implementation. Again, that is within the hands of the manufacturer and responsibility of the manufacturer. So one example could be, back to the PTZ example, if a manufacturer supports all the correct pan, tilt, and zoom calls in the proper way, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get really smooth motion or really accurate positioning. That would be on the side of the manufacturer to ensure a quality implementation. It does not check the compatibility between a device and a client or any specific interactions between two specific devices and clients. And there's no way for a software tool to really check to make sure that the manufacturer has implemented all the conditional features of a profile. It's going to check for what the device or client claims to support. And then all supported APIs are reported through the product's Declaration of Conformance, or DOC document, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Okay, so if you go to that button in the upper right corner, the Conformant product database, you can drill down into a lot of detailed information about a device or a client. So here's an example. Some of the things you can see here, you can find your product name, so you find the specific product you're interested in. Some of the things you can find are ensuring, looking at the test date, how long ago was the ONVIF Conformance submitted, and what is the firmware or software version associated with that product. Okay, you can also find three kind of more detailed documents about that device or client. So we'll start with the DOC, or Declaration of Conformance. So if you drill down into that or click on that link, here's an example. On the right, you'll find a document that shows basically the features that are supported by that device or client. In this specific example, it was for Profile M. And if you wanted to find out what specific analytic behaviors that device supports. So in this specific example, for example, this device supports human face and human body metadata, but does not support license plate metadata. So if there is a specific analytic behavior you're interested in for your application, this would be a good way to figure out whether those features are supported. Okay. There's some other documents. There's the feature list. I'm not going to show an example of that. It's a really detailed XML-based document, but it shows all the various supported calls of that device or client. And then there's an interface guide, which I'll talk about on the next slide, which is a document provided by the manufacturer to show the various details of the product. So this gives you the product information, which profiles are supported, how to contact support if you're having problems, what the prerequisites are. Maybe for a client application, there's certain CPU specs you have to have, installation information, default network settings, how to get to the camera initially, how to do initial login type things, how to configure the device. There may be configuration required to enable ONVIF on some devices or clients, and how to enable ONVIF behaviors and how to query capabilities to find out what the device or client is capable of. Okay, so what's the checklist that raises compatibility levels between a conformant device and client? So how do you know if you can have high confidence if a device and client are going to work well together with the feature set you're looking for? So first and foremost, check the device and client, make sure they have the same profile conformance. If they don't have the same profile conformance, they're not going to work well together. Check the device and client for the same supported ONVIF features, especially if they're conditional. So you can find that in the manufacturer data sheet. You can go to the Conformant product database and ensure that that model alongside paired with its firmware software version is conformant for the database. And then you can check the DOC, like I showed before, or the Declaration of Conformance, to see if the conditional features are supported for both. You can find that all through the Conformance database. Just a quick slide on brand usage and logo usage. So there's a couple different things that members can use. So first of all, the general ONVIF logo for promoting ONVIF. So you'll see that logo on even in the slide deck, just for promoting the ONVIF brand. There's a logo for marketing that you're an ONVIF member, but that does not, again, necessarily mean you have any ONVIF conformant products. And then to market that you support any of the given profiles and you've completed the ONVIF conformance process, you can use that third logo with the appropriate letters or the appropriate profile letters for the given profiles that you support. So, and one note here that the ONVIF organization actively pursues false claims to protect the ONVIF brand. So if we find and we're searching for manufacturers that claim to be supportive of ONVIF, but they're not members, or they don't have their products listed in the ONVIF Conformance database, we have ways of going after those false claims. And we also provide a way for if someone is claiming to be ONVIF conformant and they're not, we have ways that can be reported through the link at the bottom. Okay, so some resources instead of giving text URLs. So if you go to the onvif.org website, you can find a lot of this information. So number one, on the left, if you look at the profiles and specifications drop down on the main onvif.org website, you can find the details of all the things that we've talked about today. And then again, to find which products are ONVIF conformant and the details about those products, you can go to the button in the right-hand corner of the page for the ONVIF conformance links. And if you're interested in looking at the brand standards, so we talk about the logo usage, things like that, you can find that within the conformant product link within this text down here.
Thank you, Todd. Now for the Q&A session. We have one question. Once a conformant product achieves conformance, how long is that conformance valid for?
So conformance is valid indefinitely from the time that it is submitted to the conformance to the member portal, to the conformance database. However, it's important to check to make sure that recent software and firmware versions are the ones listed with the product that you're using. Again, with newer test tools being developed and released, there's a better chance or higher quality with the newer test tools than older.
Okay. Another question we have is the client test tool mentioned. Is it open to the public?
ONVIF membership is required for access to the test tools.
We have another question here. Is conformance testing required with every new firmware release?
It is not required. It is highly recommended for manufacturers to complete that process. Again, you're going to have a higher quality implementation with the newer versions of the test tool. We highly recommend that with each software and firmware release that manufacturers rerun the test tools, and we find that most do. So for good reason, I think so.
And also the fact that, I mean, that is one assurance that the actual firmware you have on your product model matches the conformance.
Yep, great point.
Conformance, is that to the device or to the firmware version or both?
Conformance is a combination of the product and its software or firmware version. And that's what had passed the conformance process. So again, you're really going to want to check to make sure that that product tied to the software and firmware version that is listed on the conformance database match, because, you know, it's obviously possible you could have an older version that was before conformance was submitted for that product. Less likely, but it's possible that a newer version, if it didn't go through the conformance process, could break compatibility from the past for that product.
Okay, another question we have. Can you please explain a little more about conditional requirements? If the conditional requirement is relevant, then it must be fulfilled.
Sure. Yeah. So a conditional requirement, if the product is capable of doing that functionality, let's just say, let's take a device, for example, and in their web UI or in their configuration UI, it has the hardware capability and some other way of controlling that peripheral or hardware. Therefore, it must be implemented via ONVIF if your device supports that functionality in some other way or has the hardware to support that functionality.
Can any level of member claim device conformance, or only certain levels of ONVIF membership?
Shalene, you can help me here on this. I believe it's user level and higher are the membership levels that gives you the ability to run the conformance tools and go through the conformance process and claim conformance. Again, just by being an ONVIF member does not automatically make any of your any manufacturer's given products conformant. They still have to complete the ONVIF conformance process. But I think the user level member is a kind of a very reasonably priced way for manufacturers to get access to those tools, and it's a good value membership level, I think.
Okay, we have one question here. Is the ONVIF device manager still updated? What are
Good question. I use the ONVIF device manager quite a bit. That is not associated with the ONVIF organization. Maybe confusingly, that's a third-party open source tool. It's a good tool. I think a lot of people use it, but yeah, it's not developed or supported or endorsed by the ONVIF organization.
One last question. What can be the cause if two ONVIF conformant products don't work? Yeah,
so I think it goes back to that checklist, right? And so making sure, I think if they support the same profile, and both device and client software firmware versions are listed in the conformance database, and drilling down deeper, if there's conditional features that are interested in that, if they're supported on both ends, then you have a really high level of confidence, I think, that the products are going to work together. So you really have to kind of go a little bit through that checklist to make sure that it meets all the criteria for high level of confidence working together. So recommend looking through those three things to make sure.
Thank you, Todd. Well, our time is up. We're glad so many of you from around the world could join us for this webinar. To learn more about ONVIF, please visit the ONVIF website at onvif.org. You may also sign up for our quarterly e-news. Our sign-up form is available on our website under the contact menu. You can also contact us at help.onvif.org for information or to get answers on any questions that weren't addressed today. Thank you very much for your participation. Wishing all of you a good day or evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.